All right, we are officially live. This is our Tuesday Red Room for the Phoenix RIA. It also goes live on my Facebook page and Luke's Facebook page and his Viking Real Estate YouTube channel. So today we have Steve Valentine on. I've known Steve for a while, but he put out, I'm searching through social media like we all do, right? And he's got a story about how to throw a company party at your primary residence and how you get to take that income tax-free and your business gets a write-off. So you get to throw a party and you get to save money in taxes. And I was like, win-win. So let's have Steve tell us the story and what research he's done and all that.
Chris likes to throw parties, Steve.
Oh, it's always a party, right? So it actually came from, having a great CPA and understanding what the Augusta rule does. And the Augusta rule states in the IRS tax code that you can rent your primary residence for 14 days a year without claiming the income. Okay. So if you're doing VRBO, like the Super Bowl is going to be in Phoenix next year, those types of things, you could technically rent your house out for a week, and not claim any of the income and not pay taxes on it. Well, I took it one step further, from the standpoint of a business perspective. And the way we go through it is that, we throw a huge VIP party for our past clients, our investors at our house every year. And so we get in writing, we get bids from hotels in our area for what it would cost to host 300 people with food, all those other things. We take those bids, we put them on file, and then the company, so it's a company expense of about $10,000 per year that gets paid to me individually, but I don't pay taxes on that 10 grand. So I'm not paying taxes in my company, and I'm not paying taxes when it comes over to me personally. So it's a trick that I've kind of learned. And then I've also taught a lot of people, a lot of my clients are network marketers. When they do events at their house, once a month, you can go through and write that off. You just can't overextend it, right? It's got to be legitimate. Like, what would it cost me to do this, to host this many people? And then it's a way to potentially get, anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 of income out of the business into your personal without paying taxes on it.
Yeah. So let's just say, obviously you probably do that VIP party like once a year, but you probably can do, how many agents do you have underneath you or a part of your team? Or,
I have 8. Yeah.
So, you could do a party for all your agents, a party for all your loan officers that work for your agents, so on and so forth. And how many parties have you thrown, or do you think you throw a year?
Well, we try to do 12 a year to maximize on that rule. Types of things, as many people as we can do it, as legitimately as we can do it, then we try to do that. So, our goal is to try to throw enough parties and really host our house and utilize it for those events, which in turn is about anywhere between $50,000 and $75,000 a year.
Wow.
Comes off the bottom line, for the company expense and goes into our personal without paying taxes on that.
Yeah. So let's just use, 70 for a round number. I assume you're not in the 15% lowest tax bracket. I would assume it's probably in the 30%. So, 70,000 at 30% is what, $21,000 a year in tax savings, that helps give back to networking, building relationships,
right?
All that other stuff that goes along with that.
Yeah. So, it's really, for those of you that are out there that are practicing real estate, it's one of those things that most of them, if we stay on this topic, I could go one deeper on understanding the rules, but also hiring somebody very, very smart to let you go to the line without crossing it. Right. So, if I told both of you guys, Luke, do you have kids?
I do. I got 3.
How old are they?
They are 4, 2, and 6 months.
Okay, so here's a rule lesson for you. When they get to the point that they can be on payroll,
okay,
that's a big step when it comes down to getting your kids on payroll. They have to have legitimate job descriptions. They were marketing, right? They were doing T-shirts at school and doing all these. But here's the crazy thing: when my kids were going to private school, like Chris and I, right, we were sending our kids to Northwest Christian. Chris is gonna be pissed when he hears this. So at 10 and 12, we put them on payroll. Well, their max payroll is $15,000 a year. Well, paying tuition is a personal expense, right? There's no
correct.
So we would pay the kids $15,000 a year. It would go into a joint checking account, and they would pay their own private school tuition. And then on top, we would fund their 401k. So both my kids graduate with about $100,000 in their 401ks that came out.
Oh, how cool is that? Yeah, I mean, my kids, we're planning on sending our kids to Gilbert Christian, so I gotta take notes here.
Yeah, so it was a cool way to get income out legitimately, right?
Right.
EPA, this is what you need to do. This is how it needs to be structured. And so that was how we structured those things. And I think a lot of times
Wow.
people have the one thing I hear most from real estate agents or real estate professionals is they get pissy about how much they paid their CPA to do their taxes. I always tell them you're not paying them enough.
Yeah, exactly.
They will save you a whole lot of money and help you really strategize, really. And that's really the basis of my business is strategies in real estate. Well,
Right.
my CPA is everything about strategies and how we save money and how we move money from one place to the next.
So, Steve, what are those ages then that you can actually start taking your children on a payroll?
Legitimately, they say ages 10 and 12 if they have legitimate job descriptions.
10
right?
and 12 months, right?
Yeah, right. 10, 12 years old, when they themselves and kind of go through that stage.
Okay. So I got a few years here.
But it doesn't mean, if you're putting them in marketing and advertising and those types of things,
Yeah.
there's other legitimate things you can do there if they actually are doing those things.
For sure. That makes sense. So I got a question for you. You said that you kind of teach people how to do this. And you said a lot of them are network marketers. I feel like network marketing is a perfect, industry for that. Cause I've been in multiple network marketing companies before as well. And your whole business revolves around parties. It really does. Cause it's all about, talking to more people, getting them in front of, the guys that know, how to give the presentations and whatnot. So, when I was in network marketing, same thing. We were doing at least a happy hour is what we'd call it. We'd do at least a happy hour a week. So, I'm sure that could be huge for network marketing.
Sure. Well, and network marketers are so, this is the thing that I teach in the tax strategy and the real estate strategies is that they have such a high earned income. They have very little tax write-offs. They have very little shelter.
Yeah.
But what happens that I see in a lot of network marketing businesses, we're always increasing our lifestyle, but we're not increasing our assets before we increase our lifestyle.
Yeah.
So let me share a quick story with you. One of my really good friends, are you familiar with the company Advocare?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay. So Advocare, he spent 17 years in Advocare and they were doing about 1.2 to 1.4 million a year. And Advocare shut them down in 60 days, zero income. Right? They pulled all their marketing, 17 years, done, over, imploded. But here's the biggest regret that he has is that for 8 years we were friends. I sold him his first house here in Phoenix. I kept trying to tell him, dude, you're making so much money. We need to shelter some of this. Let's buy some assets. Right. And too many people are too focused on cash flow and other things, from real estate rather than the shelter and the advantages of it.
Right.
So his regret is if I had listened to you and bought one rental property every 6 months with the income I had, 7 years ago, they were $100,000 homes.
Exactly.
Put 50, 60,000 down and have a decent cash flow and have some shelter.
Yep.
And if you factor in the appreciation. So I always try to get people to understand, just because you're making more money, try to shuffle that back into some assets. So that you're building wealth.
Yeah.
You're not just increasing your lifestyle.
Exactly. No, for sure. I'm with you there. That's my business partner, Jake Landis, and myself. That's all we've been doing the past 5 years since we actually started having some, decent money coming in. Is we always laugh about it because we're like, we don't ever see any cash. We don't ever see any money from our business because we literally immediately send it right back into more real estate. And so, we've been able to put together a good rental portfolio in a short time frame. But the wives are kind of complaining all the time, like, "Hey, you don't have any money. We don't have any money." It's like, yeah, but we got a lot of properties. But it's definitely. I think that's really really smart that you said that as well, because I've had many friends that have done very well in the industry as well, and they did not buy a bunch of rental properties yet. And yeah, exactly like you said, it goes quick.
Well, we live in a world. Chris and Luke, you guys on the wholesale side, right? The wholesaling is a lot of instant, quick cash, instant gratification. Same thing with real estate.
Yeah.
But very few people are looking at, if I just bought one and held one.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Once a quarter, once half year, whatever it is, or really keep the good home runs, right? And keep making cash on other deals. But if you just kept one home run a year.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and that one home run, let's say call it home run 50,000 plus, right? that's less income because you kept it, and it's, now it's an asset making you, both Luke and I kind of tend towards the VRBO model. That's kind of one of the tricks that kind of triggered when I heard the story is like, you VRBO your own house, let alone all the other VRBOs you have going up.
Right.
Oh, for sure. So Steve, I got another question for you. So, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but do you know if there is a, any laws in place or any kind of loopholes here where you could potentially rent out your office space where it could be tax-free?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay.
Around that.
Because we just moved into our new office, and you got me thinking about it. Like, man, we could throw, because we're planning on throwing like a welcome, an opening party here anyway. But we're talking about, about possibly doing, events here and kind of party type things here. And so I was just
Looks like how far can we stretch this?
Right. I mean, you got to ask.
Here's the thing though. So let's go back into something with the VRBO, because this is how we started. Originally when we bought a property up in Munns Park, we part-time VRBO'd it, and then, we lived in it the other couple of weeks. So it was a way to offset the expense of having it. But then when we finally decided that, okay, we're going to keep this, but I don't want to pick my underwear up every weekend, right? If I want to walk away, I can.
Yeah.
So what we started doing actually is, because we did so much business in Munns Park, and this is a great thing for anybody that owns a second home, is that if you have a second home and you're thinking about selling it, you need to take a year and figure out how to turn it into a rental so you can 1031 exchange it. Because if you sell a second home, you're going to have long-term cap gains tax, because there is no write-off for second home.
Right.
So what we did is we actually rented the house from our real estate company, because we were doing so much business up there, and the real estate company actually paid the rental. So it was still a rental property. The company was paying for the expenses of it. Wow. And so now when we go to sell it, we can still 1031 it, but it's also a way that we are capturing that tax advantage of keeping as a rental. So we're taking income out of the company and paying off a personal asset. And it's all legitimate, right? Because we do business up there. We do entertain up there.
Yeah.
That's what that looks like. And we let our employees use it and those types of things. So that's one of the ways that we've structured, our second home up in Munns.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Do you do most of your business in the Phoenix area, or do you do a lot up north as well?
Well, we do a lot up north, based on referral business, and then a lot of investment, a lot of strategy in the Phoenix area for investors.
Okay. And when it comes up north, mainly like Flagstaff, Munns Park area, or
Flagstaff, Munns, and then one of my agents, Ben, he does our Prescott, and he does the White Tank Mountains.
What's Ben's last name?
Ben Ayala.
Okay, I'm not sure. We do a ton up in Prescott. That's our main market, is up in Prescott.
Yeah.
Cool.
So sweet. Steve, we appreciate you jumping on. You can stay on as long as you want, but I know you're in Hawaii.
I'm good.
Okay.
Keep going. I'm here. Might as well keep going.
Absolutely. No. All right, Steve, you got any tax loopholes here? I got to write these down.
And also, I don't know if he's probably like, I don't want to share my CPA, but if you want to plug your CPA and give him more business,
I would. She's not taking any more clients on. I've referred to a ton of people, and she's not taking any more clients on right now.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But I would say this, right? The important part is to find a CPA that understands real estate and understands small business and understands those things. Interesting stat somebody told me, and I'll probably get the pages wrong, but the Bible's like 1,200 pages, right?
Yeah.
The IRS tax code is like 7,600 pages. So put that like all the different things. But what'll happen is, if you hire a good tax strategist, they will help you save more money than they will actually cost. And I just look at my CPA as they're kind of a part-time employee. But the amount of money that they've saved, I mean, even last year when I started doing my coaching program and we launched the podcast and we built out the studio and all the equipment that we bought, she found an R&D tax credit that we were able to use over 2 years.
Right.
That completely paid us back for all the money that we put into that stuff.
That's awesome.
That's great. How's your podcast going?
It's good. It's good. I really enjoy giving back to the real estate community. And, Chris, my dad for a really long time. He was always wanting to give back, and his legacy is really what I'm carrying on, which is, part of the story that we really didn't jump into is the investment side of things was really tripped, and the light bulb really came on when my dad passed in 2015. So, I said that earlier about the wholesalers, right? It's always instant gratification right now.
Yeah.
And, I'm really big on, I will work with you, but I won't work for you.
Right.
Because I believe both parties deserve to make money and build wealth together, and it can't be one-sided. My dad's investors tended to be one-sided, right? And so when my dad passed, after building these massive portfolios and buying like 1,000 homes at trustee sale for people, but he died owning nothing, right?
Wow.
40 years in the business,
Wow.
and it really kind of made me reverse engineer everything that was going on. And so I decided to kind of be like, when you're on an airplane, they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself and then put it on your kid.
Right.
So I'm like, I need to put the oxygen mask on myself and make sure that I really know what this is, so then I can help create wealth in people. And so that's really my main goal now, that I help real estate agents understand that the real estate license is like, and same thing with the wholesaling. Anytime you're doing this, is your number one way to create opportunity and build wealth if you can get past the instant gratification, right? So you're giving up some equity and some money now for the long term. And here's kind of that thing, right? So in 2015, when I really started that journey, we were flipping houses. We had partners. I'm like, okay, I need to keep one house every quarter. That was the goal. And all of a sudden, it got bigger and bigger and more addictive.
Yep.
So we can keep more because we got really creative on how we did it strategy-wise. And, today we own 78 single-family homes here in the Phoenix area.
Yeah.
And we just did a massive refinance, right? So we used all the equity that we gained to buy the houses originally without having a bunch of our own money in it.
Right.
And then we did a massive refinance to pull money out for the next round of stuff. So, and when you do that, it's tax-free, right? We didn't earn any income when we bought them. We didn't earn any income when we refinanced them. And that's where people need to really start understanding the financing and how money works, moves, and breathes when it comes down to this. Because the smarter you are with it, whether it be in taxes or in real estate, the earned income is great until you get your tax bill, right?
Yeah.
And Chris, you probably know all about this, right? The first couple of years in real estate, it was like we did really well. We spent every penny we made, and in the first 4 months of the year, we were trying to save enough money to pay our tax bill.
Yeah.
We didn't understand it, right? And so I have this class that I teach that's called, a dripping faucet fills a bucket, right? And what we don't see is that over time, a bucket will fill up with a dripping faucet. So if you don't create small habits early on, right? If you won't save or invest $10 out of 100, you won't do 100 out of 1,000. You won't do 10,000 out of 100,000, right? So we have to build that muscle memory in our investment strategy. And same thing with houses, right? If you'll sell 100, you won't keep one, right? And if you won't keep one, you won't keep 10.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's all that instant gratification when it comes down to it, not realizing like the benefit of owning those homes and the tax benefit that it actually has, right? Everybody wants to look at the cash flow as far as a monthly basis, but they don't look at the cash flow from an annual basis when it comes back on your taxes from depreciation expenses and those types of things.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So Steve, you're a big proponent. You're a big proponent of BRRRR, then I'm assuming, of the BRRRR method.
I do it with a little twist.
Okay. What's the twist? Because that's myself and my partner, as well as obviously we do the we run a full team where obviously we just do the acquisition side, so we get really good deals on properties and projects. And so the average property that we end up keeping long term, we're nothing out of pocket in it. By the time it's all said and done, I got to hear what the twist is.
So the twist is that the goal is that if we can buy something enough under market and add enough value to it, you should be able to have 20 to 25% equity in it.
For sure.
But you want to get the cash out of it. And here's the one trick that we learned on the BRRRR method, which is a little different. You're going to put the cash into it, right? So let's say you buy something for $200,000 and you put $50,000 cash in it.
Yep.
That $50,000 is going to be considered cash out when you go to refinance it.
Right.
Well, we use our construction entity to record a second mortgage on every purchase. So if Chris loans me the first, our construction entity does a second, for whatever amount is we're going to put into it, right? So let's say it's 50 grand.
Okay.
As long as that's recorded at closing, it's considered purchase money. Okay. If it's considered purchase money, when you go to refinance it, it's not considered a cash out, which means my rate is going to be better. And we don't have to
for sure.
in it, because a lot of times when you do cash out refinance, it's only a 65% LTV.
Yeah.
Right. But if you go to, just a straight rate and term, it's 75% LTV,
Absolutely.
percent LTV, depending on your financing. So we learned that if we always record a second, and by the way, you can manipulate that second for whatever the payoff.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
If the lenders aren't asking what the payoff, what the loan was, it's not, we don't put the money in at closing. It's just a lien recorded.
Okay. So then do you keep that money from the second in that account, in an account, and you just have that grow, or do you give it back?
No, we just leave it. So when we do
Okay.
the second, so for instance, we do a $10,000 second mortgage on everything we buy, because I never know if we're going to keep it or refinance it.
For sure.
But what it does is it's considered purchase money. Now, when we go to refinance that, if we put $50,000 into the property, then we'll just change that lien to whatever matches whatever money we put into it,
Okay.
so that we get all of our renovation money out of it, so that we
Awesome.
truly are into it for zero.
Man.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, Steve. What's
So-
your what's the coaching? Where is it? Where do I find it? See, it's little tax liens, like little tax laws, and then the twists like that, like you're saying. It's like, it's crazy because you can be in the industry for, I haven't been in a long time. I've been in for 8 years now, but you just learn. That's what I love about having new people on here, and that's what I've already taken that from you already. It's pretty cool. So definitely gonna have to talk.
So I do group coaching and private coaching. It's at stevedvalentine.com.
Heck yeah.
I do group coaching with about 20 agents every Tuesday.
Yeah.
We go through an hour. But the reason I started to do that group coaching was I wanted a place for the agents to bring their, what do I do with this?
Right.
I'll break down the numbers. I'll do a live call with a seller. I love showing them that there's more than just one way to do real estate.
Right.
It comes down to it. So it's, recently I did a live call with everybody. I'm like, well, I've never talked to this guy. It's going to be a live call. It's completely cold. And he was selling his grandmother's house. Right. And so we went through all of it. And my last question to him was like, okay, you've met with 6 investors, but what are you going to do to grow grandma's money once you have it? He's like, well, nobody's ever asked me that. So I ended up turning him into a private lender at the end of the day, giving grandma an 8% return on her money.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
But it's asking better questions, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
ask better questions, we can solve bigger problems
Always.
don't even know that exist.
Right. Exactly.
Here's my little tax strategy for 2022. Do you know that mobile home parks depreciate 110% year one?
Really? Wow.
110%.
So let's just say you have a big tax burden, i.e., maybe me, and I can go shop. Currently shopping for like a $2 million park, and my down payment's going to be, call it 30%, $600,000.
Right.
But my down payment is my tax liability, right?
Wow.
And now I have in most mobile home parks, you're talking $50,000 a space. So you're talking 40 spaces, and that they pay you like $350 a space. And now all of a sudden you took a tax liability and made it into a $12,500 a month
Dang.
gross income minus
There you
minus what your balance is on, And what's nice about commercial lending is, we've seen the increase in the retail lending side, but commercial lending hasn't jumped like the retail lending side. It's still relatively, it's gone up like half point, 3/4 of a point, but it's not the same as the retail side. So
Right. Wow.
that's my little tax strategy that I'm working on.
I'm gonna go buy me a trailer park.
Exactly.
Go build a trailer park.
Well, basically, what's great about trailer parks is you're just a utility company, right? You provide the space, the water, and the electric, and then they
for
got
sure.
the water is yours, but the electric is separately metered. So you're just giving them a spot.
For sure. That's pretty
So-
cool. Steve, I got a question. Do you do any cost seg on your properties?
I've been advised to a couple of times. I have not yet. I've been advised to do it on our commercial space. We haven't done it on our rentals yet. So I've heard good things about it. I just haven't done it yet.
I'm in the same boat. I've heard amazing things. I've heard it can really, really takes care of your tax liability on a yearly basis as well. But I've heard the one thing that I've heard is that for it to make a lot of sense, you have to continue buying year after year after year, which obviously that's the plan. I don't have any intentions of stopping that. But that's kind of one of the things that I have heard for it to really make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing too, on the tax strategies, which I know there might be some changes coming down the pike, but they're not there yet, is one of the things we recently started doing. So for anybody that's, into the flipping and has a way to do it, depending on your hard money lenders and things, is, we started lease purchasing all of our flips. So we flip it, we lease option it, right? We get a decent down payment.
Yeah.
But if we keep that for 12 months and then roll the profit into the next project, right? We're not paying taxes, right? And when you're in my tax liability, it's ordinary income. So it can be 30, 40% of whatever that profit is. And plus, sometimes when you're doing the lease options, you're getting a little bit higher sale price on it down the road. And you're getting a little higher rent that's probably covering your hard money. And so some people, again, if you're not being short-sighted on things, we started doing this year where we're like, okay, so if we just start the ball rolling with these lease options, now we're totally pushing the tax liability down the road to where eventually, if you did that 4 or 5 times and you push $100,000 profit, by the end of it, you can go back and do a cash out refinance and pull all that profit out tax free without paying taxes on it. If you start the ball rolling. And it's something that I wished I would have learned early on. Just didn't know enough about it, and now we're kind of into that space, but that's another great way to kind of kick the tax bucket down the road, because we're in the space right now where we're building we've got about 18 spec homes that we're building right now. And so we're in that space where I think we're going to keep them as rentals for 1 year or do a lease option.
Cool.
And then flip that profit into, the next project without paying taxes on it.
Wow. That's awesome.
And that way you're 1031ing them, you're keeping them a year and then 1031ing them down the road. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, somebody right now, especially with rates going through the roof, something very beneficial to somebody that has some down payment. You can keep their payment lower for a year. Hopefully the rates come down a little bit, but it gives them some breathing room to that process.
Right.
That makes sense.
We've actually got a property right now in Prescott that's it's a non-financeable mobile. And so, we did it real nice. But we listed it and we just got an offer today on it actually. And we don't deal with this stuff a lot. But so the offer came in at 250,000 and they want to put down. So, I'd like to hear both of you guys' opinions on this. So, they said that they would put down the sale price is 250,000. They would put down 177,000 and then they would finance the remaining 73. Or not fine. I'm sorry. They wanted to do a seller carry on the remaining 73. Again, it either has to be a cash purchase or we have to do a seller carry like this. So what would some advice you'd have, for us to look into on terms on this?
Well, I would a note's an asset and it's sellable just like a house is. So like if you got a what is that, 177 and 250, you got a $73,000 note, right?
Yep.
So you could probably sell that to somebody that just wanted 6-7%. That's probably one of the securest notes out there. So you just secure the note and then you sell it off. That's what I do with my paper every day. I lend it 12% and then I sell it to a private guy at 10. And I just keep doing it, right? So
exactly.
That's what I would do. That way you don't even have to keep your own cash in the deal, and you can actually probably keep a spread on it if you wanted a little bit. So
no, for sure.
Yeah, I think the other thing too, though, is whenever you're dealing with seller carry on something like that, is I would take it from a standpoint, if you can, and turn it into lease option for a year, because you're still going to get hammered on taxes. So whatever your profit is, you're going to have ordinary income taxes on it, right? But if you turn it into a lease option for a year and then turn it into seller carry at the end of that year, the cool thing about the seller carry is that you're only going to pay taxes on the profit as you receive it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, if you can get them, like I would take that deal all day long if they're going to put that much money down.
Yeah, they are. They put a chunk down.
But I would do it as a non-refundable lease option, right?
Yeah.
For a year, so that now it doesn't have to be a year because it depends on when you bought it, right? When you closed on it. So
Right.
months, whatever the
We've
case.
owned it for 9 months.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
only
so
need-
3 months.
yeah.
Close on it after that, because then you can take that profit that comes in and move it, through a 1031 exchange.
No,
Yeah.
for sure. I hear you.
And you only just all you got to do is put even the close of escrow out 90 days. So,
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. I know we've been wanting to, kind of learn a little bit more about them, but we just, kind of just now getting into some of the first ones. So
Yeah, the creative process is really where the money's made.
that's pretty wild. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's where the money's made. It's where taxes are saved. All those things, and they're all legal ways to do it. IRS gave us the loopholes to do it.
Right.
It's not like we're bucking the system or anything like that. It's just, again, it has to do with, for anybody listening, it's like at what point in time, like you said earlier on, Luke and Chris, I know that you feel the same way, is that if you can withhold income now for future earnings, future wealth building,
Yeah.
right? All those assets that we bought, right? They would have been commissions or wholesale fees or flip fees.
Yep.
They just paid me millions of dollars in a refinance tax-free because we figured out how to hold them.
Exactly.
Right? That's where, it's the biggest regret. Whenever I have somebody on the podcast, I always ask them, like, what's your biggest regret? And it's that I didn't buy
not buying and keeping earlier.
20 years, right?
Yeah.
Listing appointments did I go on? How many wholesale appointments did I go on?
Yeah.
And it's just, again, we've got to get out of the instant gratification, look at what's the long-term going to be. And, a big part of it, Chris, I've been working with Jack, it's so funny when I talked to Jack a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, I remember you as a 16-year-old punk sleeping in a condo in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Hanging out with him on the phone and doing some deals. But,
yeah.
It's one of those things, like somebody at Jack's age, if somebody would have told me, my 20-year-old self, what should you be doing? Just keep one house a year for the next 20 years and don't work. Right.
Yeah, you'll when you hit 40 years old, you'll never have to work another day in your life. I mean, I'm obviously not saying if you want to. I'm that type where I can't not work, but I mean, yeah, you could have that option where you truly wouldn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And just a side comment on Steve's big refi. I don't know what your rate is, but if you look at your rate versus your payback, maybe you got a 20-year balloon on it or whatever the number is, but if you look at your rate now versus inflation and you figure out actually what you're paying back over the 20 years, it's really peanuts.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. So that's a great point, Chris, is that, full disclosure, right? We just refinanced 25 homes all at one time. They're DSCR loans. So they were to the properties. They're not on my personal credit anymore.
Heck yeah.
It's personally guaranteed, but they're lent. But my average rate was 5.5%. But
that's not bad at all for DSCR loans.
No, it's not bad at all. And it was, it was all based on leases and all those other things, right? So what happens was it was a lot easier to refinance them from that standpoint. We pulled $2 million liquid capital out at 5.5%. It's way cheaper to borrow that liquid capital than it is from Chris at 12%.
Yeah.
And even though, again, this is where the thing that most people they wince at is like, oh, well, it's not cash flowing now. Well, if you look at law of average, it's still cash flowing about 10 grand on those 25 properties, but I've got $2 million liquid.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
That's the difference right now.
Is down payments, it's whatever the case may be, and now it's moving the ball, but somebody's still covering the debt on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the money that I pulled out is still tax free. And here's another fun loophole. Chris, have you ever done there, or Luke? Either one of you guys.
Yeah.
Have you looked into any of the infinity banking policies and in whole life insurance?
No.
I've looked into a little bit. I've gotten close to doing one, but I haven't ever done one.
Okay. So last year, a good friend of mine does them, and he's like, dude, you got to do this. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Right. Because all I'd ever heard about whole life insurance is just, it's a crappy investment. Right.
Okay.
And that was the old school thing. So we actually took a lot of our liquidity last year, and the cool thing is you can put policies on your kids. They'll be insured forever. Right. And we did a couple policies ourselves, but here's what happened is when you front load a policy. So last year we had to pay IRS 6 figures. And I'm like, so I called him like, so if I front load a policy with 6 figures, what does it look like? And so he gave me the example on it and sent it over. And so what's crazy is I front loaded that policy with 6 figures and it's growing anywhere between 4 and 6% tax free.
Wow.
Before taxes, right?
Yeah.
So now it's growing in that policy, but I turned around and I borrowed 4% from the policy. Now we were going to put money into our policy anyway, or into a tax savings account. So instead of putting the tax savings account, we just paid it back to the policy. And so after taxes, it's still growing at 4 to 6% annually, tax free. And then we just did 3 more policies and put a bunch of money into them, front loaded them. But now we have access to that rather than it sitting in nothing.
Right.
It's growing, and I
How
have
cool.
access to it.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Well, guys, it's 35 minutes. I didn't want to keep you this long. We try to keep it.
No.
We're learning lots of stuff. And if
No
anybody
kidding.
wants to jump on Steve's coaching. He's Steve D Valentine.
Yep, and it's Steve D Valentine on Instagram too. You can see all my crazy shenanigans from
Heck yeah.
flamethrowers to monster trucks to whatever other shenanigans I'm doing on there.
I love it.
That's
Steve,
cool.
are you you're in Hawaii? So I mean, is what you keep drinking? You better tell me that's a Mai Tai.
No, it's not. It's water.
Oh, okay.
It's still only 10:30, right?
Yeah, it's totally 10:30.
Hey, you're on vacation. Come on.
I know, right?
Well, guys,
Awesome.
thanks for jumping on. We appreciate it, Steve.
Absolutely. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you
Yeah,
guys.
thanks so much,
All right.
Steve.
See you
Great
guys.
talking to you.